Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third edition of Metopia's webinar cycle. So today we'll be exploring a highly relevant and evolving topic, responsible sales in the metaverse. So as digital commerce continues to expand and new models such as the direct to avatar transactions and also, of course, the AI powered sales agents are reshaping the way we engage with consumers in virtual environments, we thought that it would be a good topic to discuss in this webinar series that we are conducting in partnership with XRSI Europe, a collaboration dedicated to promoting a safer, a more inclusive, democratic metaverse. So XRSI Europe brings together leaders, experts, and innovators to ensure that the emerging technologies create a safe and ethical experience in the metaverse. So before we begin, I would like to share with you some quick notes on the logistics with all the participants. So after the event, we will send out a newsletter with the presentation slides that will be shared today by Francesco. Also, a summary report covering all the key topics that will be discussed. We have a journalist in-house, so she will do this coverage, and also a feedback survey that we would love for people to express their thoughts and suggestions for future sessions, and also what they have found on this event. So, also please feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A feature that we have here. And so we'll try to do our best to address as many questions as possible during the discussion. I'll be only doing this opening. Then, so to explain the agenda for today, we'll start with Francesco. So Francesco Pagano is senior partner at JAKALA, a digital consulting firm and author specializing in Web3, digital marketing, luxury, and business innovation. Then we will have a panel discussion that will be moderated by my colleague, Cindy Berardo. And we will have as guests Rita Magalhães. She's data and sustainability research scientist from Infinity Foundry, and João Neto, which is a VR and IR. I think that you have understand, specialist for Hubduction. Sorry, but my English today is a little bit rusty. So, but Francesco, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Now, I was going to ask, maybe for those that don't know about Infinite Foundry and about Hubduction, while Francesco is getting his presentation ready, maybe you can share with us just a brief introduction of what your company does. So later on, when we have the debate session with both of you, people already know a little bit about both of the company. So maybe we can start with Rita. So what does Infinite Foundry do exactly?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I was here trying to think the background, so I'm going to try to multitask. So Infinite Foundry is a tech startup that works in digitalization of reality. Our mission is to deliver efficiency and innovation in a way that is lean, green, and digital. So what we do is basically create copies of reality, so-called digital twins, with a connection to the reality. We work in a lot of industrial settings, but anything that has an operation that can be optimized, Infinite Foundry can offer you a solution, yes.
Thank you, Rita. And what about you, João? Can you tell us a little bit about Hubduction, just a brief intro?
Yeah, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to APDC. I've been part of previous webinars as a participant. Now I'm glad to be speaking with everyone. And also thank you to everyone that is at home giving the time and attention. This is the most valuable thing that people have right nowadays. In Hubduction, we are a specialist doing VR and AR, so augmented reality and virtual reality. We should start all talking about XR, but it's probably too soon for the market. What we do is a little bit continuing the idea of Rita. We've been together already in several events. We are doing the virtual world in the concept a little bit more in the cultural side, in the tourism side, in the real estate side. So we all we do, it's making experiences. So it's our goal is to create experiences to make another level of interest for our user that in the end will be our client. This approach is based on a beautiful view of the world, trying to gather the information that the world provides us and work it in a way that is pleasant and is interesting. We don't try to make roller coasters. We talked about that. We try to make what you have in the world and translate it to the virtual world, and giving it a meaning. That's our goal right now.
Perfect.
That sounds amazing and really exciting. So I can't wait for our debate. Let me just check. João, is Francesco, are you ready? Can we start with your presentation?
I hope so. Let's see. Well, Microsoft helps me. No, thank you very much. Apologies, but this morning
No
I
worries.
was like, it's an Italian computer, so it refuses to comply, as always, culturally.
So
exactly like me. Let me know if you can see the presentation. Should be
Yes.
live now.
Yes.
And thank you very much for the opportunity, Sandra. You were amazing. Perfect. I'm going to run this 15 to 20 minutes, so not to bore to death anyone. And I know the title of the presentation is Metaverse. I call this immersive branded experiences because they're very much in tune with new generations. Let's take a look at landscape and what's going on. Maybe a couple of solves or solutions for this space, and lots of examples. Just a word of caution, I am going to exaggerate, so paint it black, just for the purpose to make it a little bit more spicy and hopefully fuel a nice discussion afterwards. So let's begin from the landscape. So what's going on out there when it comes to immersive branded experiences? So really brands that want to engage with new generations. So being immersed fully 360 with full senses into an experience is something that is very much in tune with new generations. Probably we don't see today, but by 2030, Gen X, Gen Z, and Gen Y, so millennials and the new generations, will be responsible for 75% of real purchasing power. All the decisions that will go on in terms of business out there, and they will run our society. My generation will be useless by that time. By the way, I feel useless already today, but these kids are digitally native and they really thrive in a fully immersive experience and context. And we should be aware of this. So maybe you don't see it tomorrow morning, but immediately, abruptly, you're going to see it by the end of the decade. Also, what technology does for these people expands their potential. So goes on top of their powers and abilities. What AI and all these tools that you're going to see do for us, they give us superpowers. Now, it's not only, I think the big difference today is we discover it's not only software. So 5 years ago, it was all about software, all about SaaS, all about scaling up. Now there's hardware that comes into play, but it's not only hardware and software. It's the presence of sensors and IoT out there that will give us a full 360 experience that we want to feel, live, remember. That's the interaction between software and hardware. It's actually a fully immersive, fully sensorial experience. There's an abundance of content out there, abundance of stimuli. So the goal of any brand, any business remains the same, being distinctive, have your own handwriting. Now, a big move, a big shift between my generation and the next generations. I mean, I was amazed and enthralled of being able to watch something, an event. New generations want to have a say. That is the big difference. So what these new tools need to make sure it happens is the possibility to have the contribution of the audience. Everyone wants to be part of the game and interact with the environment in which they're being immersed. And this is fundamental. So it's not only about discovering and watching. I want to have a say in what's going on in that branded experience. Another element that is fundamental, the current status quo of immersive experiences excel at giving you a lonely immersive experience. What we struggle, or we haven't found yet a solve, is a communal digital immersive experience. So even the concert of Travis Scott on Fortnite is not really a communal experience, because, you know, the audience is being broken down into batches. You know, Fortnite cannot afford and does not have the bandwidth and capacity to have millions of users in real time interacting with each other. So we do not have yet solved for a fully communal experience like we have in physical environments. So the presentation has a title called Metaverse. So the best definition for the audience that I'm going to leave comes from a guru in this space called Matthew Ball. So what the Metaverse does differently probably from just a digital experience to core, it has ownership of data given to the users and fair compensation for all. So if you know Animoca Brands, this is the company behind, for example, companies like The Sandbox, and probably the most successful experience or the most successful example in the case of Metaverse is Axie Infinity. If you take Vietnam, for example, that experience was able to lift GDPs in 2021 by 1.5%. So it does work. It does have an impact when you empower people. Some data. Today, immersive experiences are basically gaming, and it's a market that in real terms is actually declining. So post-COVID, you can see the number on your left. Most of gaming is being consumed today in 2D, thanks to mobile penetration. So today, immersive experiences are actually done and consumed in a bidimensional experience. The gamers are actually 3 billion people. If you count 10 plus, and if you count also the passive users, is most of the world. So it is a phenomenon. Today, it's not fully rolled out and displayed in all of its, let's say, glory. So the other element that is fundamental, so there's one winner in gaming, so which is Roblox, that, you know, probably entertains most of the youth. So the next generation that will come and will be relevant in 2030 and onwards. So Roblox has more or less 400 million monthly active users per month. What's striking for us is Roblox or Epic Games are not profitable. So we do not have yet a business model for these players. So when it comes to AR and VR, or what do you call, more basically for a salesman, goggles, it's still a niche. So last year, 6 million units were shipped. So we're talking even fewer units than wallets or blockchain wallets out there. So it's still a niche. It's still 1.1 to 2 billion in revenues, which is nothing compared to the potential that it has. When it comes to goggles, so there's one market leader that is Meta with its Quest platform. So I know they're working on, for example, or Ray-Ban, Oakley goggles, and this will change rules of the game. Not yet, not today. So Reality Labs has collected overall 84 billion in losses to date. So we do not have yet a business model. The same thing goes for Apple Vision Pro, which has not made a dent yet into the market, and spatial computing is not real yet. Okay, what are the enablers? Very quickly, and some use cases. So the first is virtual reality. So if we call virtual reality, for example, the case of Meta Oculus. So today they do work, for example, in the case of training or giving people the possibility to be better at their skills. So one example is here. So in the case of a famous quarterback, Jaden Daniels, states that actually being able to use these goggles to become a better quarterback was fundamental to perfect his game. Mixed reality, so spatial computing, for example, and I know there's millions of definitions out there, so bear with me. It's more the interaction between physical and digital, so opened up by Apple Vision Pro. So what if is a combination of what a phygital world could be, but one case is the TGL golf tournament by Tiger Woods, which you take the game, so beautiful game like golf, and you break it down into digital and physical. So the boring bit can be done in a digital environment, and then the good bits can be done in a physical environment, in a real arena, where fans interact with their heroes and the gamers. So it's a mix between the two, more than just a merely purely digital experience. Then in other enablers, Metaverse and blockchain, as we said, the most successful example that we have in history is probably Nightland on the Central End. More visitors than the Louvre in Paris, with full ownership and NFTs given to users. Unfortunately, that wasn't the turning game for Nike. Artifact is being closed, and so is Nightland. So I think what we need to see in the case of, for example, the Alien Worlds by Dakoko, again, it's Animoca brands, is smaller communities where you empower even more creators and you pay them even more. Alien Worlds has a smaller community than Nike, but it's fully profitable even with 1,000 users. Another enabler, more folklore, is geolocation data, so similar to Pokemon, for example. And again, you can see one element, one avenue of this immersive experience, which is the mix between physical and digital. For example, also you can draw with GPS. The advent of AI will give us in these experiences the presence of agents that are really actors with their digital identity, and they have a character in the case of agents, so that you can have, for example, historical games where you actually interact with Queen Elizabeth, which has a specific character, and actually the interaction will be individualized. So my interaction with the Queen will be different from yours, for example. So the advent of agents will go towards the direction of making that experience just for me, which is fundamental for new generations. Immersive environments. So what you see here is actually not an arena, but a real sports bar in Los Angeles, where you can drink, network schmooze with your peers and actually enjoy the game as if you were watching it at the arena. So we said it's a fully sensorial experience. So for example, if you take the example of Sony, The Last of Us, so the quality of the experience is almost real. It's not only that, so it's also the rumors and the smell and the feeling. So similar to this, so if you take the example of Sony, there's another company called Emergency, which is building a fully sensorial, fully immersive phygital establishment in Venice, where you can actually be part of a war zone or a refugee camp. So you don't really understand the disaster of war until you live it for real. And that's the point of, for example, this initiative by Emergency. So I think what we're going to see in terms of immersive experiences are going to go more towards the direction of beautiful AAA resolution, but they need the full 360 experience. So it's going to be more phygital than digital. Then there's, for example, haptic technologies. So this works especially in the B2B environment. So for example, you can actually feel the texture of a Loro Piana jacket thanks to these tools. So it's not only your vision, but it's also your tactile experience. Now, so what we need for this to pick up, because it doesn't work today from a business model point of view. So it's only marketing. So it's a center of loss. So yes, it builds awareness. Yes, it builds engagement, but it is not a business yet, which means it's not a market. What we need is monetization. We need to find a way to monetize this, which for the case, for example, social media became advertising. So it became an advertising platform. So we need to have business strategies that are really adaptive and are really take with them the heritage marketing, and they bring that into a new world. So for example, billboard will become three-dimensional. This is the case of Bulgaria that we did. And the experience will be different if I wear something that tells the billboard that I am who I am, so that I can experience something that is different, for example, from you. So we're going to have a marker. We're going to wear a marker on ourselves, and the billboard will change depending on who we are. It's the end of omnichannel. Omnichannel is having the same message in every single touch point, so that I understand that is Bulgari. The future is not omnichannel. The future is the touch point will understand who I am, thanks to my marker, my goggles, whatever I have, so that they will talk to my life without interrupting it. Another example could be our, augmented reality. So this is an example as of today. So today, depending on where you connect, you're in Asia or Singapore or in Alaska, of course, you're going to see a different advertising. Good. I mean, this is good. This is just simple old world advertising. It would be different if we marked the player with something that they wear, for example, on their jersey or under the badge of their team, so that I can see and interact with the players as they play. I can find out, I can double click on somebody so that I know facts. I can interact with Ronaldo as he scores. Another way is the evolution of e-commerce. So this is the Adidas Labs that we did with, for example, Adidas, so that it goes on top of the physical store, so that I can customize my shoe and put my spin on it and a specific detail, and then send it for production, and then it's going to be shipped to my door. So it's the end of e-commerce. So in the end, there's nothing like the real thing. So it's really the physical experience will still be there, exactly like TV is still here, even though social media became the #1 tool to discover and find out things, as we discovered, for example, in the case of COVID. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to put a digital layer on top of the physical events, like in the case of League of Legends, or more recently, in the case of Australian Open, which was, thanks to AI, broadcast live on a digital, let's say, on a digital space while the physical game was playing, but you could interact and you could find out facts with the digital, let's say, with the digital twin of the physical thing. So conclusions. Immersive experiences are really human. And exactly, especially for new generations, they will build individual and especially shared memories. So I think we need to solve for the fact of a communal digital experience. Today, these experiences are marketing enhancers. They're marketing tools, and they have a right to exist as marketing tools. And they're totally fine. They build, engagement and depth with the communities of brands. They are not yet a business model. In order for this to become a market and a profitable business model, we need to lower the cost of production. So AI will help us make this sustainable, scalable, interactive, and individualized, especially with the advent of AI agents. Monetization and data capture will be fundamental. So it's not only, empowering and engaging people, but it's also understanding and capturing data about them and paying them, giving them money for their contributions. So the super fans will want to help brands, then you need to pay them. And blockchain, for example, could be a nice enabler because it's programmable payment rails. So one example. So there's a full video and you can find it online. So what we did is we did a fully immersive phygital experience for the 75th anniversary of Bulgari Serpenti, where AI was talking to every single shopper, every single individual. thanks to their feature, their history. And the AI tool, the AI, let's say, brain that was behind this immersive experience was going back and fishing the full history of Bulgaria and catering that to you, just you, in a totally different manner. And the let's say, this corridor, this immersive corridor, was dispersed with sensors so you can touch and feel and understand and ask the brand for different stimuli. And that is precious gold information. I mean, maybe we'll send the link of the Bulgari afterwards. And say with that, I think I'll take a pause. I did 20 minutes roughly, so I don't want to bore you to death.
Oh, no, not at
Apologies
all,
for the
Francesco.
quick overview.
Your 20 minutes to me, I don't know about the audience, but to me, they felt like a minute, because you had so much information and amazing examples. So I really want to thank you on that. And usually I take notes, and I took so many that I really wouldn't know what to highlight, because in fact, I would probably say that, you know, that this for me is a new word, the phygital experiences, you know. So it was amazing that you could actually bring so many different examples and practical examples. And I think that maybe both Rita and João could have maybe 3 to 5 minutes to also comment on your presentation, because if I'm bubbling and I'm not an expert in the metaverse, I guess they probably are more excited than I am. So I would probably start with Rita. And also, before I pass on to Rita, Francesco, I know you are the keynote speaker, and the debate will be between Rita and João, but I will be very happy if you want to jump into the conversation at any time to add your opinions, okay? So now we will pass the floor to Rita. Rita, after this presentation, what are your reflections? Unmute your microphone, please, Rita.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. It was incredible. It's very interesting for us to hear this perspective, because as a company that has a B2B model, it's interesting to understand what are the approaches that you consider are going to interest the Cs of our B2B, so the customers that eventually our clients are going to be marketing to. But honestly, I agree with you, Cindy. It was very interesting, and I started to feeling like a consumer and not someone. I wanted to participate in those examples. I am a huge sports fan, and I kept thinking of Formula One integrating these things. I hope that happens soon, because I think that there's a huge potential there. For us, I think, and I'm probably going to repeat this several times, but in our view, the metaverse is not just for the hype, and we really believe that adoption has to be driven by functionality, so that businesses, customers, society has to see an added value here. And like you said, nothing will replace the real experiences, so we need to understand what is this going to add to the real experiences. And I think you gave quite a lot of good examples of that, of the practical applications of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Rita. João, what about you? What are your initial comments on Francesco's amazing keynote?
First of all, thank you, Francesco. I also took a lot of notes. Even though I'm from the area, everything that Francesco talked about, I know a little bit. I learned also some stuff. I was afraid when Francesco said it, he was going to be provocative. He was going to say that the metaverse is dead and VR is dead or something like that. That would put me and Rita out of business. But he didn't say that, so it's okay. He talked about a little bit about the meta, about the $81 billion that Reality Labs spent. Just last year, it's lost $8 billion. But then we have to give this context inside of a company that worth $3 trillion. So it's $8 billion, it's 0.26%. So it's nothing. And they are just putting, they are solving money. They are solving a problem with money. It's an approach very known in the other side of the Atlantic. We in we try to solve it with creativity. I think at least it's because since we don't have a $3 trillion. On the talking and learning some words, Francesco talked about phygital. Cindy was surprised with this word, but I think phygital and XR that we also talk a little bit are just another buzzwords like AI. It was last year, a couple of years ago was a NFT and Bitcoin and several other words that we were using during this last decade, but what is important is what we do with this stuff. Rita, for example, works in the side of data, in the side of science, in the side of saving millions of dollars to a company. I work in a perspective of bringing people to a place. So in the tourism side of things, in the cultural side of things, because we can visit Lisbon, for example. We can take a hop on and hop off bus that costs you, I don't know, 40 euros a day. But then you go to the list of points you can visit, it's more than 39 points. So do you actually have time to visit all these points in a day? Do you have to make this visit twice? Or could you just go to the places that you want, the places that you are excited to, and then all the others you can find online? And with the same ticket, for example, you could buy a ticket on a hop on, hop off, and then go home and have a virtual experience. And I'm talking about Lisbon, the capital of Portugal, the capital of a European country. What about Estremoz in the middle of Alentejo next to the border with Spain? When Google will look at them or Meta or any other gigantic company, we are the people in the territories. We have to give these options to them. Of course, these options cannot cost billions. They have to be sober in terms of a budget and deliver the same experience. This is my first remark.
Thank you, João. So, oh, did I share my screen and I shouldn't have?
No.
No? Okay, sorry. That was my bad. Okay, so let's deep dive into the conversation. And Rita, you were saying that it's all about functionality, that nothing will replace the real experience. So what will it add? And Infinite Foundry is about bridging the real world and the digital world. So you spoke about digital twins in industry. How does Infinite Foundry focus on digital twins and realistic 3D environments? And how does this approach enhance commerce in the metaverse?
Great, thank you. So as João said, digital twin is also a buzzword that's been thrown around more and more over the last few years and becoming more and more popular. In our view, a digital twin is a copy of reality that has a direct connection to reality. So it's not a simple 3D model. It's not a simple dashboard reporting data. It is it's the foundry actually of the 3D with the data. And in that sense, what we see is this bringing value to e-commerce and to commercial transactions is if the adoption is driven by functionality, is if the metaverse can become a direct to manufacturing space. So where customers can customize their products and they can see the direct application of the products, they can see the real production tracking, and they can integrate with the physical world. And on the other side, industries, production lines, factories can test new products, test new layouts for the factory, test new methodologies instantly, and have this connection in the digital world that then is going to make the process in the real world more efficient and more streamlined. So this is the value that we see, always with a connection to the real world. Yes.
Thank you, Rita. And for João, you were speaking about the fact that Hubduction is an immersive and cultural touristic experience. So how do you emphasize immersive experiences? I mean, how do these virtual interactions impact the consumer decision-making in the metaverse?
Yeah, the consumer, the user, they know everything. So imagine that you are going to buy a car to a car dealership. You arrive there, you know which car you want, what brand, probably what color you want, and you arrive and talk to a guy that is selling more than 120 cars. In the end, you will know more about that one car than the seller. The only information that he will give you, and it will not be a new information for you, it's the price that probably you check it online, and the delivery date. That is the difference. So with virtual reality, you can do exactly the same with your vacation. It doesn't make sense to go on a very expensive trip and then find out that the hotel is not our dream. Yeah, you cannot go in a honeymoon and find that. So
would you say it's like a try before you buy experience?
It's that can be one way of looking at it. Try before you buy, but is learn before you go and choose it better. So before we go to anywhere, before we buy a book, we read reviews. Before we go to the movie, we can check the review of the movie. Before we go to a restaurant, we go to Instagram and check if the food at least looks good. But this doesn't take us from going. And taking the words from Rita, it never will replace the actual going. So if I check the Instagram of a restaurant, I will still be hungry. So I have to find a way of fixing that. And with a hotel, with a golf court, with a vacation, with choosing a city for a honeymoon or a trip, this is all part of it. So what we want to deliver is an exceptional experience that make you choose. So the look to book rate. We want to improve the number of people who look to a place and book it. For example, this worked really well in venues for weddings. We work with several companies during the pandemic. Were shut, of course, and we did some photo shoots with them. And what the experience is that they end up closing deals with the same kind of people, but faster. So, for example, people from Portugal that live typically in Switzerland or France or Germany, they would propose to each other, and they would choose the venue the next time they came to Portugal. So the next summer after that would be the wedding. So 2 years from the day of the proposal. Now with checking 1, 2, 3 venues up front, they can make this decision faster. And this is one of the examples where you can go for.
That is a good example. I think everybody can relate to, especially women, because we love to take care of everything of our weddings. So I can relate there. Thank you, João. So Rita, João was speaking about, the fact that he is a business to consumer. You are a business to business. You spoke before about direct to manufacturing. And I would like to ask you, so how do digital twins enable business to connect directly with consumers, giving them more control over product and design and production? Because, João was giving us this example of how people can make decisions faster. So what's the case from your experience in your industry?
Yes. So the way that we see the metaverse or digital twins connecting consumers to businesses is to allow them to personalize everything in real time based on their preferences and needs. For example, one could have a digital twin of their house, a scan, not a digital twin, a 3D model of their house, scan of their house. And when buying furniture, when buying a couch, for example, they could personalize it directly and in the way that they want. So it's a little bit like what we do here in Portugal. I'm sure other places do it too. But here we have the thing that we see a couch that we like, then we go to a factory and maybe try to convince them to make it the way that we want. But everything has to have a lot of layers here. So what we want is to have this direct connection mediated by the metaverse and mediated by the digital twin. Furthermore, it's going to be manufacturing on demand. So it's going to be custom over mass production. And that is going to connect the user and connect the customers way more. It's going to allow for full transparency. since digital twins are based on data and real-time data, that's going to allow us to know exactly what materials we are using in our products, where they are coming from, who is going to be making this, because it's a direct to production connection. And on the brand side or on the businesses side, they can test new products, they can test new launches, new ideas with almost no losses or having to go through the entire process of actually launching something, seeing it flop and having to go back. They can have these trial launches on the metaverse. But one of the even though this all sounds great, I think one of the big challenges also in interacting and relating to customers is making sure that we practical, and we know that people are going to still care sorry, more about the real world. And I'll give a very short example of something that I went through recently. So I bought a house, it was under construction, and we designed the kitchen and wanted to be installed. And the installation is delayed by 4 months now, but they did a VR experience of our kitchen, and they were very excited about that. And obviously it's fun, but I want my kitchen. So it's very important that we see this as adding value and not trying to replace something or just give them something to be entertained with until the real world. So it would be much more interesting if they had allowed me to design the kitchen with a VR experience and actually make it instead of having it just exist in this virtual world. So yeah.
You know, and speaking about that, I mean, you spoke about data and you spoke about real time, and now with this real life example that happened to you, I would like to apply it to what you do. So what role does real time order tracking, because here, if you would have been able to see the delays in construction, maybe you could have gone on site and been a little bit more demanding to press them to move quicker. So here, applied to Infinite Foundry, what role does real-time order tracking and data visualization play in enhancing B2P operations in the metaverse?
It starts even before order tracking. So when designing the product, when designing this idea, there's ways to predict how long it's going to take. So each material that people choose, each factory, whatever characteristics they add to this product, they're going to directly affect the time that it's going to take to be built, to be made, to be implemented. So they can be empowered from that first moment. And every decision can be made with real knowledge based on previous data. Furthermore, obviously, real-time order tracking. We are used to that with having our packages numbers, and we can see where they travel in very general points. But here we would be able to see exactly what step of the manufacturing the product is in. So what production line is it in? Is it through quality control? Is it still being in the sourcing of the materials? Is it already being finished? What stage is it at? And that will allow for, as you said, much better planning of what we do and our expectations above all. So that is something that I think this connection between real world and metaverse can really help with. It's the management of expectations.
Management of expectations, and I think that that can also apply to Hubduction and to João, because when people go through an experience in the virtual world and apply to cultural and touristic authenticity. So João, how can virtual environments be designed to capture the essence of culture and touristic experiences, making them more engaging and meaningful for the users? João, are you there? Maybe you're muted.
Yeah, I was just going and renting with the mic off. I was just starting by saying that what Rita does, it's closer to save the world and what we do. We are much more in a position of integration, and when we talk about cultural, we talk about not just the art side of the things. We talk about also the people in places. So what we're trying to do is not replace the experience of going to a place. It's the concept of giving an extra an extra feeling. So when I go to visit the town, probably I cannot just rent a hot air balloon and see it from above. But I can put a drone and give this experience to the person. I can take, for example, today it's February, it's cloudy outside. I can take you to a vineyard in Douro and see the harvesting of the grapes. That is a unique experience that you can only live it during 1 month of the year. But people are coming and visiting every day of the year, so they can visit the place, and even there they can live another experience, putting goggles or touching in an iPad or with their own phones. We can visit a museum in a recluded place where you cannot have a lot of stuff, so you can develop an app that guides you through the museum with audio in your own language. You can look at a painting and the painting can move. We did this with the tiles with Azulejo, and that is a small place in the middle of Alentejo, and we make the paintings move. For obviously the target audience is the youngest, because they would arrive to the museum, they would look around, and in 5 seconds they would say, it's done, I saw it already. But after they know that they can download an app, and there is a avatar talking to them in their own language, telling them the story of the kings and queens and the saints on the walls, it goes from boring to gamification to I have to catch them all, almost like the Pokemon experience that Francesco showed in his PDF. And this takes the experience from 5 minutes to 45 minutes. To the feedback we have is that now they have to take the kids. Okay, it's done, it's finished. It's let's go next stop. And this is what the technology it can offer us. It's not the AR or VR that is the ultimate solution. It's just how we approach the problem. It's a matter of understanding what's the problem, understanding what our client, our target audience needs, and offer them a solution. This solution has to evolve, has to grow, has to be updated every day, of course. But it's in these small details that we'll save money in the industry point of view, and you will get more visitors in the cultural, in the tourist point of view. So this is always about economics, of course, but is solving the right problem. Giving just an example, back in the days, every time you hear about virtual reality, would be someone in the university studying how to operate a brain. And I go to my contact list, I know one doctor that is operating brains, but every one of us we are all taking a driver license. We all need education for first aid. All these smallest elements should be much more easier to put in VR than operating a brain. It's like, I don't know, in the University of Medicine there are 50 guys studying to operating a brain. To the rest of the body, it's 100% of the guys are doing this. So let's do smaller stuff first. That's our point of view, and it's the way we like to work.
João, Francesco said something in the beginning of his presentation about how new generations are digitally native. And speaking of myself, I'm 45 years old, so I'm between analogic and digital. So not only we do have to adapt to the audience, but we also have to think about niche. So there's something that Hubduction really worries about as well, which is inclusion and accessibility. And it's also a key challenge in the metaverse. So what strategies can companies adopt to make virtual experiences more inclusive for this wider audience? Because of course, if somebody is physically impaired, maybe they can't have this type of experience in the physical world, but they can have it in the digital. So what are you working on to make this happen for that wider audience in terms of inclusion and accessibility?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the inclusion of people, we don't need to talk only about people in wheelchairs, for example. It would be impossible for a person in a wheelchair to visit the Notre Dame, the old version. I don't know the new version, but it will be very hard. So why can't I create a solution for everyone to put VR goggles and check the new cathedral? Why do we have to talk about such an extreme example of someone in a wheelchair? Why someone cannot fly? So if I live in Portugal, to go to Paris, I have to take a flight or 2 days drive. It doesn't make sense. And talking all these experiences, and we can break it down in smaller problems, not person by person, but finding which kind of problems would affect. For example, this summer we made an experience of going on a regatta with a sailing boat. I was in the boat, and I can tell you that I was not ready for that. I was with a crew. They were ultra ready for that, and still we almost turned over the boat. And this team took me. We record the experience, so now someone else can have this experience. So now someone older than I can have this experience. Someone younger than I that doesn't know how to swim can have this experience safe, and probably they can find this passion, and then they will learn how to swim. They'll learn how to sail. This is just a way of doing this. In my family, I have a case of someone that we will always need a wheelchair, and every time I do something, I think about this one person, and would this be interesting? Would this be representative of the real world? And also on top of this is our world is changing. So if I record today a vineyard in Douro, a beautiful seaside in the island of Portugal that I can show you right now in February, even though it's cloudy outside, this will be forever. Okay, so in 50 years, we don't know how the world will look. And if we work well enough, like bigger companies than us are doing, we will have a library of experiences that we can share. And this is for everyone, with audio, with visuals. Someday the technology will evolve in touching and smells. This is all around the corner, you know. The Metaverse, the Meta Quest 3 that are the most famous goggles for VR. For me, in my point of view, they are just the inception of the technology. The horizon from Meta, they are announced to 2027. The technology will evolve a lot. So the comparison I usually do, it's comparing VR goggles today to the VR goggles of 10 years ago. It's more or less comparing our smartphones in our pockets to those gigantic Motorola that were in a backpack or in the car. That they didn't make sense at all, but there were people that spend that money, you know. I remember when you call abroad, so if you want to talk with Francesco 20 years ago, we would call him and we will look into the watch to see how much time it passed. So this call is already 15 euros at the time leader for or something like this. And let's stop it. And now we are talking during hours, recording and sharing. This is just an evolution. This is just a step, and we are happy to be part of them and thinking about how we can make it for everyone.
Thank you, João. It's all about forward thinking, but also, again, we have to think about what people want and how they live their lives now and what they need for their future. And not only do we now think more about the accessibility, the inclusion, but younger generations are starting to be more concerned and bring awareness to things like efficiency and sustainability. And Rita, I would like to ask you, so what's Infinite Foundry's approach to direct to manufacturing to reduce resource waste and optimize production for industries?
Great question. Thank you. Before I dive into it, I just wanted to respond to João's point that we are more saving the world than he is. Unfortunately, no, as we are all driven by the same capitalist society. But this is what I'm presenting here, this direct to customer and this connection between the factory and the customer. This is the view for the future. Currently, what we have is some of our businesses some of the industries that we have implemented our solutions in, they use these platforms to design new products, to test new products, to optimize their production order or production lines, mainly in automotive. So this is already being used. The connection between the jump to customer factory connection, that is the big challenge, and that is the door to the future that we want to invest in. And I see a lot of value in your solutions, not only for teaching specific skills, but also because I've always heard and feel more and more that history repeats itself. And that if we could have a more immersive way to teach history, to teach art, to teach all of these things, that it would maybe be a bit easier to get people to feel immersed in the history and to change things in the current times. Regarding sustainability, so if we have customization and if we have planned production and everyone can say, I want this and I want to buy this and specifically this, we have less overproduction. And we have optimized usage of material. There's a lot of material waste in most of the industry. So specifically, for example, the clothing industry, there's a lot of overproduction. There's a lot of products that don't even go into selling. They just go to waste, which it doesn't exist. It's just a country that's receiving all of this. So we're going to call it they go to waste. And there's a lot of material that it's not going to be used. There's no true way to recycle a lot of things. So we started with the 3 R's and we taught and still teach little kids how to recycle, but a lot of things cannot be recycled. So we need to go a little bit before that. We need to optimize the way that we use materials for production and optimize what we produce. By having all of these planned and augmenting the resilience of the supply chain, we're also going to be able to reduce carbon footprint. And something that it's not as sexy, but it's very important, is the reporting of sustainability. So the European Union is going to launch a lot more directives in this reporting. The digital product passport is going to be enforced very soon, which means that each product has to have a passport of how it was built, where it came from, every person that touched it, every single material. And that is going to be hard for companies to report on, but it gets easier when you have real-time data. And it's going to be even easier if someone is designing their own product. I think this answers the question. Am I allowed to ask one to João and Francesco?
Yes, please do. It's a conversation, so go ahead.
Great, thank you. Because I'm curious to know about other people that move in this industry. How do you feel about these hardware solutions all being owned by major corporations? Because we are trying to create products for the masses and for everyone. And then we have the Meta, which are owned by Meta, and Pico by the TikTok company. And we used to recommend HTC, that now was bought by Google. So, and then there's the Vision Pro, which are from Apple. So there's really no solutions that are not owned by major corporations. How do you feel about this and the possibility of keeping it fair under these circumstances?
No, Francesco first. I've been talking for a while.
No worries, João. No, thank you very much. Rita, I feel I have mixed feelings. So maybe just looking at what happens on the social media, does big tech have the incentive to share their words of the data being captured? The answer is no. So today, if you take the Alphabet group, the sharing is fairly limited. So 45% of revenues on YouTube normally are shared with the creators. In the case of Meta is 0. So basically the ownership of the data and the data capture is being monetized to the advantage fully of the Meta group. So without regulation and without a tech stack that really allows us users to know where the data goes, it's a world where the concentration of information is dangerous. And so I am really worried. The digital arena is probably something that we have experience with. being monitored in the physical world 24/7 is something that, you know, is fairly new. And so if you take the example of Dubai, this is a nice live social experiment being done on us as human race, let's say. So I do not have the answer. Rita, do I feel at ease with this, the concentration? The answer is no, unfortunately. I don't know about you, João. You're younger, probably you're less pessimistic than I am.
Or worse, I'm not. It's a little philosophical question from Rita's side. I was going on my answer on a technological but hardware point of view. So she talk about Quest and talk about Pico. We are always in the hand of huge corporations. From phones, we had a few years ago Nokia and BlackBerry. Where are they now? We are in the hands of the constructions of cars. Tesla didn't exist 20 years ago, and now they are the owners of everything. Even in books, now Kindle is one of the most used methods to read a book, and it's an information that was shared not long ago that from February to the rest, from February upwards, all your Kindle books will have to be read on a Kindle, not on an iPad anymore, and stuff like this, unless you download it. So you are always in the hand of the owners of the hardware technology, and this is very hard for us. We work with technology, we sell it to our clients, and we cannot assure them that in 5 years Meta will scratch VR doesn't work, let's throw it away, because there are millions of businesses like ours working with VR, with AR, with Google AdWords, with Facebook ads. We are all in the hand of these huge corporations. We just have to adapt. You know, Microsoft announced last year that they would they will finish the HoloLens program, and I know companies in the last 24 months that bought a gigantic amount of these goggles so they can introduce VR on their working days. And all of a sudden, because they are not profitable in this area, let's change our strategies. We just have to be adaptable. We have to accept this as steps. And I visit thousands of places with touch screens for museums that are 15, 20 years old. They are outdated. But we are not paying for the technology to be here forever. So this is an experience that we want to give, and we don't have to expect that a touch screen or an iPad or whatever will work for 20 years in a museum. We have to predict that this will be destroyed. In terms of a more philosophical point of view, I normally it's very hard to positionate our company as what the future will bring to the new generations. I want and hope that it's a brighter future, because that's why we try to do beautiful experiences and showing the real world. I normally say that we are in the middle of two concepts. One is showing to older people or older than I am that the VR and AR technology is not a monster. It's not a boogie monster. You can have beautiful experiences. You can relive some experience. There is another company in Portugal that made the experience of visit Fatima during the celebrities, and this for older generations that cannot move from hospital. It's very interesting. And to the younger generation, we want to capture the real world and show them that it's not that boring. Remember, kids nowadays, they just turn on a PlayStation and they are killing monsters and jumping from buildings, being Spider-Man and all the other superheroes. And then they go outside and life is boring. So we want to show them, no, they have beautiful things to do and a beautiful experience to do. I think the social media, it's a way of doing that, because there are places that you go just to take a picture and then you come back home. You know, so all this technology is making us explore as humans, and we have to just be smart about it. You know, we did project with a Portuguese company, engineering company, and they have the information about how the tidal waves will move in a specific way, place in the coast, and they can predict 20 years ahead. They can predict. The only thing we did was to put this in 3D and show them to the people. And then the presentation was in front of 3 mayors from 3 different municipalities, and everyone was amazed. Not what we did, it was just taking right information and build a solution. But this was a way of visualization. One of these 3 mayors were an engineer. The other 2, one was a lawyer and the education background, and the other was a nurse. So it was easier for them to see the future and understand that they have to take actions. And if this one project helps someone, I'm already happy with this.
Thank you, João. João, we also, I think in the beginning of Francesco's presentation, he mentioned how a few years ago, everything was about software, and now we're moving into hardware to actually add to the experience so that the user can have a full 360 experience. But the fact is that these hardwares, they're expensive. And apart from the side of being expensive, like you just said, I mean, some of the screens in the museums are 15 years old and they haven't been replaced. And I guess they haven't been replaced because they cost a lot of money. So my question maybe to the 3 of you is, the name of this session is Responsible Sales in the Metaverse. So are we making money in the Metaverse? This is my question to the 3 of you. Or how can we make money?
So since I have my mic on, I'll take the lead on this one. Since we work with a niche of the market, so tourism and culture, of course the payback is to have more visitors. Okay, so you cannot have a visit to a museum and a call to action buy the ticket, because it's the correlation is hard. You will get back your money on the people actually saying, okay, I want to make this experience. I go there and I spend some money in restaurants, I spend some money in a hotel, and all this interaction. I was saving this for the case studies. We had one hotel that worked with us. They sell each night 1 bed, but this is a 5-star hotel, so they already know that the bed is amazing. What they want to show is experiences, what you can buy upfront. So you can buy upfront wine tasting with the makers of the wine. You can buy upfront a ride on a hot air balloon. You can buy upfront experience with a cook that is a Michelin cook. So you can have a horseback ride class. All these experiences that if you go to a place and you have only 3 days, you cannot plan them. But if you know them upfront, it's very interesting. On top of this, and we know because we've been working with them for more than 4 years already, so since the inception of Hubduction, is that not that they sold more rooms, because they already had a 75% occupation rate all year round. Is that they get more events. They start to close more experiences, presentation of cars, books. I know that was another presentation of a movie, several weddings. So all these experiences, all these VR tools that we make and think about one solution, then you put it in the hand of the actual user, and they do something completely different that surprises. Okay, so we were selling beds in a hotel, and all of a sudden they say, no, we book a lot of weddings now. That's the beauty of the thing.
Thank you, João. Rita, what about you? Would you like to share a success story?
Yes, sure. So we believe that answering your original question, how do we make money in the metaverse, or how are we making money in the metaverse? We are making money in the metaverse by connecting it to the real universe, the real verse. So by clearly adding value, by giving people and creating things that are actually needed and wanted, and not just hyped up or just fun. They have a purpose, they solve real problems. So the same thing that we are told to think about when creating a new business idea or a new product, we apply it here. So regarding success cases, I would probably mention we developed a brewery in the metaverse for Siemens in Brazil. So they had in Siemens they had to build an actual brewery there, so employees can have the experience of during their work day or during team building hours to make beer. And they wanted us to put it in the metaverse, so that's what we did, but with this connection to reality. So someone with the goggles elsewhere can actually control the standards, the parameters, and this allows for team building experiences for people that are not in the offices, for example. So that is and how we made money with this because we sold them this solution, but now they can make money with this solution because they can turn this into a commercial product with actual value. So they can sell the experience of making beer inside of a Siemens factory, or they can explore all of these different possibilities.
Thank you, Rita. Well, time flies when you're enjoying the conversation and having such amazing interactions and insights like you've been sharing. So maybe I would ask Francesco, I give you the floor so you can do our closing remarks of today's session. Your final thoughts.
No, for sure. Thank you very much. It was, great to participate and learn. So for me, egoistically, it's an opportunity to learn new things. So thank you for that. The main message of the presentation is, I think, when it comes to digital environments, whatever we build digitally, we're not going to make it. So let's say it's not going to be a market and a real business model that creates value for the community unless we empower creators. So it's going to be more like YouTube versus, for example, the case of social media. And the second thing is it comes with ownership. So in the digital arena, we leave behind data around, our behavior. And I think without ownership, full ownership of data, where we allow people to enter our zone, it's not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. So it's going to be more like Axie Infinity versus social media today. So for me, the creation of social value, shared social value, this communal event we haven't yet cracked, and it's going to be fundamental for the success and the let's say sustainability of the future digital environments. So this is my hope, and the small contribution that I can give, in the everyday life as a consultant, as an agency, is to work against this, and that's all. No, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, João. There is a lot of food for thought. Today, we didn't have any questions in our Q&A, but I'm sure that the audience enjoyed this conversation. And if they want to carry it forward, I'm sure they can get in touch through LinkedIn. All of our speakers today have LinkedIn profiles, which you can easily find and continue to have the conversation. As I said, once again, just tell you that we will send all participants a post-event newsletter with today's presentation, video, and report. And we kindly ask you to provide feedback. The form will be included in the newsletter. So once again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see each other in the metaverse sometime soon, or again at one of our webinars. Thank you so much to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao.